Welcome back. It is now the 14th edition of NFL Weekly. I'm Nick Sinafani.
I'm Brenden Garula.
And I'm just going to get right into our first game, which is the Monday night game of the week, which is the Giants taking on the Eagles. This game, kind of nasty. The Giants dominated this first half with Eli Manning at the helm, with Daniel Jones down with an injury. Eli threw for 2 touchdowns, both of those going to the rookie Darius Slayton, who had a great game, hauling in 5 receptions for 154 yards and those 2 touchdowns. Saquon just can't get anything going, only rushing 17 times, only 3 of those coming in the second half for 66 yards. In the second half, the Eagles drove their way back. Carson Wentz had a great game at the end of the game, completing 33 of his 50 passes for 325 yards and 2 touchdowns. Boston Scott led the rushing attack with 59 yards and a touchdown. And Zach Ertz caught the game-winning touchdown in overtime. That was his second touchdown of the game. And the Eagles go to 6-7.
We have an NFC South matchup with the Falcons hosting the Panthers. And Matt Ryan gets hot. 313 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 93-yard touchdown to who knows how to pronounce his name. I don't know. But Devontae Freeman, a solid game, 17 attempts, 84 yards and a touchdown. On the Panthers side of things, Kyle Allen continues to turn the ball over consistently. He's turning into the next Jameis Winston. 293 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Christian McCaffrey led the team in both receiving and on the ground. 11 attempts, 53 yards on the ground, and 11 receptions, 82 yards in the air. Helping his fantasy owners to get that playoff championship thingy that everyone calls a dub. But that's not enough as the Falcons take this one 40-20 at home.
We have an AFC East matchup right here as the Jets are taking on the Miami Dolphins. Ryan Fitzpatrick leads his own team in rushing. Let's not count that he didn't have much competition with P. Laird as the second best rusher. I'm not even going to try to figure out his name. Fitz runs 8 times for 65 yards. Incredible. Completes 21 of his 37 passes for 245 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. Not the greatest. There just wasn't a lot of offense in this one. Sam Darnold barely completing half his passes, thrown for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Let's take it back to 2013 as Bilal Powell is the leading rusher of a team, rushing 19 times for 74 yards, no touchdowns to account for. The touchdowns on the Jets' offensive side went to Robbie Anderson, who had a nice game, 116 yards, and Demaryius Thomas. And that is it, I believe. The Jets take this one by 1 off a game-winning field goal by Sam Ficken and go to 5-8.
We have the Bucs hosting the Colts as Jameis Winston had a awkward game, let's say. 33 of 45, 456 yards, 4 touchdowns, but throwing 3 interceptions. Let's also not forget that he had a rushing touchdown as well, putting out 42 fantasy points. Mike Evans hauls in a 61-yard touchdown, but then goes down with an injury. So Chris Godwin has to carry the team in receiving this week, hauling in 7 of his 9 targets and 91 yards. For the Colts side of things, Jacoby Brissett throws for 2 touchdowns. Marlon Mack rushes for a touchdown. And M. Johnson has a 3-reception, 105-yard game with a touchdown as well. The Buccaneers pull this one out 38-35 and move to 6-7.
We head to Minnesota as the Lions come to match up against the Vikings, and Bo Scarborough outrushes Dalvin Cook. I'm sure you didn't expect that one, but Dalvin Cook did put up a touchdown in his stat line, making up for it, and the lone touchdown that went on the Lions side of the field was a connection from David Blau to Kenny Golladay. David Blau did not continue his MVP game from last Thanksgiving, though, as he only completed 24 of his 40 passes for 205 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Kirk Cousins completed 24 of his 30 passes for for 1 touchdown. That touchdown going to B. Johnson. I'm not going to try. And the leading receiver was Stephon Diggs, hauling in 6 passes for 92 yards. And the Vikings take this defensive matchup 20-7 and go to 9-4.
We have a potential NFC championship matchup between the Saints and 49ers. And this game was crazy. Drew Brees leads the Saints, throwing for 350 yards, 5 touchdowns. Let's not forget his rushing touchdown. Michael Thomas hauling in 11 receptions, 134 yards, and a touchdown. Jimmy G throws 349 yards as well, same as Drew Brees, 4 touchdowns and an interception. Raheem Mostert, 10 attempts, 69 yards, 69 yards.
Nice.
And a touchdown. Emmanuel Sanders hauls in 7 of his 9 targets, 157 yards, a touchdown. And he went 1 for 1, 35 passing yards, and a passing touchdown. What a week for this guy. And let's not forget about George Kittle. He was not their leading receiver, nor was he their second leading receiver. But he made the biggest play of this game. On that 1 reception in the 4th quarter with a minute left, dragging down 3 defenders on him and leading this team to a game-winning field goal. I don't know how to describe that play. It was just amazing. The 49ers take this one 48-46 in an offensive side of the game. They move to 11-2.
We head to Orchard Park in a showdown between 2 2018 draft class quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. This game went to Lamar Jackson, though, but for the second straight week, he was held in check, only throwing for 145 yards, but also putting up 3 touchdowns through the air, one of those going on a 61-yard play to Hayden Hurst, the first-round tight end from 2018, one going to Willie Snead, and one going to Nick Boyle. Nothing really got going in the rushing attack, which is rare for this Ravens team. And it was the defense that stepped up big, as they only let Josh Allen throw for 146 yards and a touchdown, not even completing half his passes. As a result of this, the Ravens go to 11-2 and take a 24-17 win over the Bills.
We got the Battle of the Ohios as the Cleveland Browns host the Cincinnati Bengals, and this game was ugly. Baker Mayfield completing 11 of his 24 attempts, 192 yards, and 2 interceptions. Nick Chubb made up for that, rushing 15 times for 106 yards, and Kareem Hunt rushing for 28 yards and a touchdown. Baker Mayfield completes 4 of his 7 passes to Jarvis Landry for 76 yards as the Browns' leading receiver. Not much other stuff to talk about for the Browns. And on the Bengals side of things, Andy Dalton does not stay hot for his second straight week, only completing 22 of his 38 attempts, 262 yards and a touchdown. Not a touchdown, an interception, my bad. And Alex Erickson completes 1 of 1 and 26 yards.
Good.
Joe Mixon has the biggest game of his career. 23 attempts, 146 yards, and a touchdown. But that's not enough as the Bengals fall to the Browns 27-19.
We had to Lambeau in a matchup between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and Dwayne Haskins and the Redskins. Aaron Jones was the X factor in this game as he leads the team in rushing and receiving, rushing for 134 and a touchdown on the ground and hauling in 6 of his receptions for 58 yards through the air. The Redskins' offense just can't get anything going ever since they let Haskins take over. And some more bad news, the impressive second-year back Darius Geist goes down with another injury. We don't know the severity of it yet, but we hope he heals up. This Packers defense, this was another defensive game. Nothing really got going for either team as the Redskins D held Aaron Rodgers to only 195 passing yards and a touchdown. And as a result of this, the Packers take a 20-15 win and head to 10-3 as the Redskins go to 3-10.
We had the Houston as the Texans take on the Broncos, and the Broncos laid it down in the first half. They were up 31-3 at halftime because Drew Lock led this team. He threw for 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception in this start. And Phillip Lindsay had 51 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Noah Fant hauling in 4 receptions and 113 yards and a touchdown. He's looking like the next George Kittle after all his yards after the catch. Deshaun Watson does not have his greatest game. 292 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And DeAndre Hopkins, once again, another great game. 7 receptions, 120 yards, and a touchdown. The Broncos win this one 38-24 after their impressive first half.
In a matchup between two underperforming, hyped-up teams, between the Jaguars and the Chargers absolutely dominated this one, with Phillip Rivers throwing for 314 yards, only off of 16 completions for 3 touchdowns, and even Tyrod Taylor came in and threw a touchdown. Those touchdowns through the air went to Austin Eckler, who had 112 yards through the air, including an 84-yard touchdown, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, and Virgil Green. Now, the Chargers' defense also held Minshew in check, as the Minshew magic just cannot reignite itself, as he only throws for 162 yards and 1 touchdown. That going to Nick O'Leary. Also on the rushing attack for the Chargers, Austin Eckler hit triple digits as well, rushing for 101 yards off of 8 carries. And Melvin Gordon ran for a touchdown, and so did Derek Watt. This was just an all-around dominant performance by the Chargers, and they go to 5-8 and win 45-10.
We head to Oakland as the Titans just dominate the Raiders. Ryan Tannehill throws for nearly 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. 2 of those touchdowns going to the rookie A.J. Brown, hauling in 5 receptions, 153 yards, and as I said, those 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, yet another phenomenal game. 18 attempts, 103 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He has secured himself to the Pro Bowl after this insane year. On the Raiders side of things, Derek Carr, not a bad game, 263 yards and 2 touchdowns. Darren Waller, 73 yards on 6 receptions. But the Titans just destroy in the second half, putting up 21 points and allowing none. The Titans win this one 42-21.
We have an AFC Championship rematch as the Chiefs head to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. And they got their way this time. Patrick Mahomes leading this team, throwing 283 yards and a touchdown, also throwing a pick, but it didn't matter in the end. Nothing got going in the rushing end for either of these teams, with LaShawn McCoy only rushing for 39 yards and James White only 33. Through the air, Travis Kelce had a reliable game as usual, hauling in 7 passes for 66 yards, and Tyreek Hill did the same, hauling in 6 for 62. Mecole Hardman, the burner rookie, catches a 48-yard touchdown as his only catch of the game. And for the Patriots, all-reliable Julian Edelman had a good game, as usual, with 8 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. This Chiefs defense stood up and only let Tom Brady throw for 169 yards and a touchdown, while also forcing a pick. And they take this one 23-16 and go to 9-4.
We have a Super Bowl 43 rematch as the Cardinals host the Steelers, and Kyler Murray struggled against the Steelers defense, only throwing 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Christian Kirk, 8 receptions, 85 yards, a pretty solid game. And on the Steelers side of things, Duck Hodges gets the start once again, throwing 152 yards and a touchdown. This game was just not like Super Bowl 43. It was a very lame game. The Steelers take this one 23-17 and move to 8-5. No,
we head to Sunday Night Football as the Rams are taking on the Seahawks. And Russell Wilson, again, can't get anything going for the second straight week. Thrown for 245 yards, no touchdowns to account for, and an interception. The rushing game, Chris Carson had a decent game, rushing for 76 yards off 15 carries. Todd Gurley had a nice game, 79 yards and a touchdown. Malcolm Brown also had a touchdown. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp both had touchdowns through the air, as Jared Goff threw for 293 yards and 2 touchdowns, but also 2 picks. And, yeah, the Rams just kind of dominated the Seahawks team, which was very surprising. They take this one 28-12 and go to 8-5.
We have our Thursday night game of the week, and the Cowboys are in primetime once again. And once again, they struggle. Dak Prescott, 334 yards, a touchdown. Zeke, 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. Michael Gallup, 109 yards. Not terrible on the offensive end, but they let Mitchell Trubisky throw 3 touchdowns, and he has had the worst possible year that these Bears fans could imagine. I don't know what else to say. These Cowboys are struggling. They are 6-7, but are still leading the NFC East. I don't know what else to say. The Bears take this one 31-24.
We go to our Team of the Week segment, as it must go to the San Francisco 49ers, who went into the Mercedes-Benz Superdome and dropped 48 on the Saints, including a game-winning field goal for the win as time expired. George Kittle, with a absolutely unhuman-like play, dragging 4 Saints players on his back, including a face mask penalty, to put the Niners in field goal position and to take this one home. Jimmy Garoppolo threw 4 touchdowns through the air, and they were all spread apart. 1 going to Emmanuel Sanders, 1 to George Kittle, and 2 to Kendrick Bourne. Now, Emmanuel Sanders also threw a touchdown, a 35-yarder to Raheem Mostert. The rushing attack, not as great as it usually is, but Mostert got in the end zone once again through the ground, rushing for 69 yards and a touchdown. And Matt Breida also having a nice game, rushing 6 times for 54 yards. Now, this was just a dominant offensive showing by the 49ers, even though their defense didn't do great. Beating a team while still letting the other team drop 46 on you is very impressive. The Niners go to 11-2 and regain the number 1 seed in the NFC.
And our player of the week has to go to Emmanuel Sanders. This guy hauled in 7 of his 9 targets, 157 yards and a touchdown, with his touchdown being a 75-yarder. And let's not forget his amazing throwing skills, going 1 for 1, 35 yards and a touchdown. That's what really clinched his player of the week spot. This led the 49ers in what could have been an NFC championship matchup to a 48-46 win over the New Orleans Saints as they moved to 11-2 and regain the first seed in the NFC. This one will be interesting.
That's all we got on the Week 14 edition of NFL Weekly. I'm Nick Senefani.
I'm Brenden Garula.
And we'll be back next week to recap all of Week 15.